A very good morning and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of NBS Breakfast Meeting. We are going to be discussing things that have affected us and how can we talk about those without talking about COVID-19. It has affected us in so many ways, business, health. I mean, we can't even be able to go to our places of work and do what we're supposed to do. But then importantly, what can we learn from it? What are those things that we have actually been not paying attention to? And I'm talking about how to harness digital solutions for business continuity in the public sector. How are you able to buy your tomatoes from your local market vendor without actually stressing about it? Ladies and gentlemen, that is a conversation we'll be having today, and so many other things, interesting things, new innovations and new partnerships. And we'll be talking about the, of course, the UNDP Jumia online platform partnership. I'm joined by Elsie Attafuah. She is the resident representative for UNDP, and of course Ron Kamara. He is the CEO of Jumia Uganda. Very good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Now we know last Friday, it's been a week now, you launched a very interesting partnership that of course our viewers want to know about, the UNDP Jumia Uganda platform partnership. Elsie, maybe if I can start with you, what is this partnership about?
First, let me thank you, Victoria, for this inviting me. Let me thank NBS for inviting me to discuss this very important topic. It's very topical, and let me also take the opportunity to congratulate the Ugandans for all the hard work in terms of being ahead of the pandemic and all the robust measures, particularly from the leadership of the country. Now, having said that, let me try to situate our conversation, because it's very important to situate why this partnership is important. Now, COVID-19 is unprecedented. We've never seen it in our lifetime. It is not only a health issue, it's also a socio-economic issue. In fact, it also has environmental dimensions, but let me focus on the socio-economic dimensions. We have seen the impact on the private sector. Sure. SMEs have lost their jobs. You know, we have seen poverty increase in many ways. We have even seen the sustainable development goals starting to regress. And we've seen very vulnerable sectors like tourism, manufacturing, agriculture, trading really going down. So what are we trying to do? As UNDP, our strategy is threefold. Help countries to prepare for, respond to, and recover from the pandemic. So this very exciting partnership with Jumia is one of the ways of helping the country to respond to and address. Now, what are we doing? We see digital solutions as one of the ways of helping countries to do that. And we've launched this very exciting and amazing partnership with Jumia on an e-commerce platform that helps you to connect the market vendor, the woman who sits in Nakawa, the woman who sits in Kalewe, to the online consumer on Jumia. Now, what does it practically mean? We have identified 5 markets in the country: Nakaseru, Nakawa, Wandegia, Bugolobi, and Kalewe. Now, with these markets, if you go online, your UNDP Jumia platform, you are able to order your tomatoes, your pepper in the markets. So in the market, we have young people whom I would just like to call market consultants. They will go around, pick the best products, make sure that the standards are there, they are clean, they are hygiene, help to package them, and then be able to transport them to the consumer. Now, on last Saturday, Victoria, I did something very important, which for me demonstrates the capacity of this partnership that we have. On Mother's Day, I decided to buy fruits and vegetables, sitting in the comfort of my house. I went there, I ordered, and I bought food from the woman in Nakawa. I even chose the market that I wanted.
Interesting.
So what we are doing is that we are helping to create jobs. We are helping to create livelihoods. We are helping to make sure that the supply chain, the agricultural supply chain, it's revamped. And we are also supporting the early recovery of the country, which is very important in times like this. So it's really an exciting partnership, and we are very excited about it because of the potential not only to impact people, but even the potential to impact the planet. Imagine everybody crisscrossing the city to buy tomatoes. Now you sit in your house, you reduce pollution. Your carbon footprint is there. You save, even the government also saves a lot in terms of funding. So in many ways, it touches every corner, people, planet, society, the way we do business in a very different way. And I'm truly excited about this thing.
Well, interesting, Ron. I know Jumia has been doing that, but then How is this one going to be different? You have been connecting, the buyers to the sellers. You kind of revolutionized that here. How is this going to be different?
Well, let me first add, I think what Elsie mentioned, indeed, these are unprecedented times for our country. And indeed, many parts of the economy, especially the informal sector, has been ravaged by this. But also, on the other hand, we've seen the best of our country. We've seen our frontline workers, surveillance officers, nurses, doctors sacrificing and doing everything they can. But also the informal sector has sacrificed quite a lot. We've seen women, young people sleeping in markets so they could continue to sustain the supply chain, continue to support people who live in big cities. Ugandans have sacrificed, and it's paid off. It's paid off. We have one of the lowest infection rates globally. We have people who have stayed home and stayed safe, have adhered to government call. So overall, we as a country have done well. Despite that, the economy is not doing well. Despite that, we have people, especially market vendors, informal sector, who have been ravaged even more by the fact that people can't move freely, by the fact that people are staying home and staying safe, adhering to the rules of the government to keep us safe. So the unintended consequence of this has been huge, and this is where we come in. Of course, Jumia has always been here working with thousands of vendors across the country. We've been supporting hundreds of thousands of customers in the country, but
have you been doing markets?
But we have never really been reaching the people that we're reaching now. The lady who's selling tomatoes in Wandaga, the guy who's selling cabbages in Nakawa. Those are people who have historically been kept away from the online digital solutions.
I like the way you say it.
The people who have been selling have been what we call premium sellers. Those who are selling TVs, appliances, accessories. Those are the quick adopters. And so the people who have, who need it the most have not been part of it. And this partnership with the UNDP reaches those people who otherwise have no additional sales channel beyond people going to their stalls. And Jumia has great experience, obviously, educating these vendors. Our technology has been adapted for them. Our logistics has been made available to them. We've been training them on pricing. We've been training them on packaging to make sure they can reach more people who are staying home. Today, as we speak, about 2 markets already live. And those sellers in those markets are able to reach more people who are in their homes. It's creating an additional and incremental sales channel for these people. And in the long run, we'll talk about the long-term impacts. There are huge long-term impacts, as well as formalizing these vendors, providing them a way to track their sales, allowing them to access credit and so on, and all the benefits of being above the line. And so this is just the beginning. The goal is to expand this to the whole country. The goal is to make live all the markets, but we start from somewhere. And I appreciate UNDP for leading on this. They have global experience, working with informal sector, working with people who are struggling globally. And we as Jumia, as a leading e-commerce platform, we are experienced in technology. We also want to help the sellers, but we're learning a lot from UNDP, learning a lot from the sellers themselves. So we're looking forward to this.
Now I want to know who are the beneficiaries. How much is being invested in this initiative? Will my judger in the village, who produces on a big scale, be able to benefit? Those initiatives usually are the people in the CBD, Central Business District, usually understand. They adopt easier. They want to learn. But my friends in the villages who have the produce, are they part of this?
Well, let me, very, very important point that you have raised. Who are the beneficiaries? First, let me say the people. In the UN, we always say, and even the government, we always say, leave no one behind. What does it practically mean? It means the youth, the woman, the elderly, the people with disabilities. Those are the people who are going to benefit. Now, if you take those 5 markets that we have talked about, these are very central and strategic markets where we have, basically they are outlets where everybody is bringing their produce. You have farmers there, you have vendors there. In the greater Kampala area, you can see that, it's really a good hub. So the people we are supporting, those who are benefiting, are not only the vendors in those markets, they are the farmers who are bringing their produce from the village. They are the border guys who are bringing and transporting the goods to the market. So when you look at it from that point of view, you are looking at a whole value chain process, which is benefiting the rural farmer, the youth who is selling, the woman who is selling. But investment is not only about the people, it's also about partnerships. We are investing in partnerships not only with Jumia, with the Ministry of Trade, for example. They are going to train the people on standards. We are partnering with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, with NITA-U and others. They are going to be able to invest as well in systems and processes that will support these vendors in many ways. But we are also, Victoria, we are also investing in the future of development. And that is very important because we are doing something that is new. This is a new norm. And as we rethink about our country, Uganda, and where we are going to go in future, how we're going to build back better, these are the new ways of doing business that we're talking about. But if you try to be, looking to the future, and we start looking at the regional point of view, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which our country, Uganda, has subscribed to, somebody needs to sit here today or in Accra or Lagos and be able to order something from the vendor here in Uganda. So for us, what we are investing is not only about today. We are investing into the future as well. And like I said, we are also investing in efficiency and efficient processes, because you can try to do some things without actually going to the market yourself. And we are building smart cities. KCCA is involved in this. And it's really exciting. So if you look at the different dimensions, the investment is not only financial. For us, of course, we are providing the smartphones for the women. We are also buying them data, internet, so that we can kickstart the business. That's part of the investment. But if you look at it broadly, it's both financial and non-financial in many ways.
Now, Ron, yes.
Just to add to that, I think talking about efficiencies, and this is where, as a country, we've been lagging behind, and to an extent, the rest of the African countries. And I'm glad that Elsie speaks about cross-country trade. If you look at Africa as a whole, we have less than 2% of all our transactions happening online, compared to more than 20% happening in China, happening online.
2%.
2%.
Wow.
Now, if you had to look at cross-country trade, it's almost non-existent. And so we've been talking about infrastructure, we've been talking about, so the point here is that technology can be the enabler, can close that gap between countries trading with each other, and the African Free Trade Agreement, I think, is a good start. But the quickest way to close that gap, the quickest way to scale integration is through technology, which is why Jumia is leading in this. But we have many hindrances between us trading with other countries. So even though we have a huge marketplace here in Uganda, it's not available for customers in Congo and South Sudan. And so we think that the UNDP leading on this, and the countries actually working on this together, will have a huge impact going forward in opening up these markets for online trade.
Then goes the question of you as Jumia, what are you going to do about sustaining this initiative, but also importantly expanding beyond the investment with UNDP in this model?
Yeah, no, I think it's very important to us. Our vision has always been to support vendors to reach consumers everywhere in Uganda. And we look at technology as the great equalizer, that it doesn't matter how much capital you have, it doesn't matter where you live, that our tools are able to help anybody to be able to sell and reach more customers. We say that you don't have to invest in growing your own technology, you don't have to invest in your own marketing, you don't have to invest in your warehousing and logistics, we can do that for you. And so this will be extended to those same vendors. Now that this box has been opened, these vendors, informal vendors in the markets we've started with, and soon other markets, will have the same access the premium vendors had in Uganda. So we are very confident that Ugandans will enjoy the quality of products that are coming from these markets. We're very confident that things have changed, that people will look at the efficiency of delivery compared to driving in traffic and going to the markets and waiting and going through the haggling, that you'll enjoy the standardized pricing, the quality checks, the quality assurance, the door delivery, the convenience, and the safety of these processes now. Before this, all e-commerces across Africa struggled with one thing: trust. Can I trust that things will come to me in a safe way? Can I trust that what I select on the site is what I'll get?
What I'll get.
Now we see that as a result of this pandemic, e-commerce is trusted because we offer cashless solutions, we offer no contact delivery, so you can get products delivered to your home in a safe way without any contamination, without any risk of getting COVID-19. And we've proven that we have better protections. Our customers have warranty on most of the products. These vendors are pre-selected, they're trained to make sure people are getting the right products. So customers have better protections online than offline. And so my expectation is that this will continue to grow. Vendors in these markets will benefit. And we also learn a lot from these vendors. These vendors have been doing business for a long time in these markets. They're extremely savvy. They know how to do business. What they've been lacking is somebody to come and move them from this informal sector, give them another sales channel, which is online, and they will thrive. So it's not that Jumia will make them do well, or UNDP will make them do well. Jumia and UNDP has given them an opportunity to use another channel, and they are businessmen and women. They will take advantage of it. They will market their own products. They will reconnect and connect with their consumers who are coming to the markets. So by just providing this channel, we're confident those vendors themselves and the consumers will take this to even bigger heights. I'm
interested to know, we have a mindset of, as I will speak of Ugandans, I don't know about the other African countries, we're quite reluctant to embrace new innovations. How are they reacting, especially the market vendors?
Well, I think that in my experience, having worked in about 5 African countries, I've worked in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, I've worked in Nigeria, I've worked in many countries with Jumia. And I have to say that Ugandans are one of the what we call quick adopters. Ugandans like new things. We like to try new technologies. And we've seen with the success of Jumia and other tech companies in Uganda. So I'm not in any way concerned that Ugandans won't adopt to a new way of shopping. I'm not in any way concerned that vendors will not adopt this technology, because we see already we have more than 3,000 vendors selling on Jumia today. With this new partnership with the UNDP, we expect we'll more than double that number. And we know that the way these guys have been thriving in very unorganized markets, they have been thriving in very difficult circumstances. E-commerce will be a piece of cake. They will adapt and they will thrive.
Well, I cannot wait. Now, Elsie, are there any plans to replicate the same in other parts of the country?
Well, I mean, absolutely. We're starting with the 5 markets first. But we are going to be looking beyond that. We're going to reach out to the entire country. And it's very exciting already because of the partnership we have with Jumia. Some young, smart innovators are already in touch with us as UNDP to say, no, we are in our little village here, in our district here, we want to do something like this. So certainly we're going to empower them, but also looking at different models, different adaptations to what we have to with Jumia to try and support them. But I think beyond Uganda, like I said, is also to try and connect them in the region, which is going to be a very, very important point. So certainly, absolutely, we are going to be expanding beyond the 5 markets here in the country, and we're also going to be looking at different adaptations. We do have in UNDP what we call an accelerator lab. An accelerator lab is simply a lab that helps us to rethink our future, to rethink development in the 21st century. We hope that we can use the accelerator lab to also accompany particularly young innovators to think different models around this, in a way upscaling it, in a way making sure that we can get to every corner where we are connecting market vendors to online consumers.
Now, Elsie, speaking of course, projections, I know that global projections indicate that the economy is, is taking a really big hit. Do you think this will help contain after the pandemic?
Well, already I think we are already seeing the benefits of this. I think the impact of the pandemic clearly is there. And by introducing digital innovations such as this, we are trying already to contain that. I think this investment, the pandemic is a disruption. It's not only a negative disruption, but it's a positive one. And I see that the seeds that we are sowing today, we are going to benefit them. As the country recovers through different means, trade, tourism, all that, these are the kind of instrument, digitalization, that will help propel it to a different level. So I believe very strongly that yes, we can be able to do something transformational with what we are doing now.
Ron, what do you think will be the short and long-term benefits of e-commerce on SMEs?
Well, already e-commerce has been an important tool for growth or lever for growth for many companies in Uganda. Number one, what it does is that obviously it creates an additional sales channel for people. But people are able to be home, they're able to be in Kampala and sell to many customers that they would not be able to reach. But the second point is that it creates a lot of efficiencies. That if you're a vendor in Nakasero, if you're a restaurant in Kampala, if you're a shop owner in Chikubo, all you have to do is focus on your core competence. Your core competence is to source the right products, price them correctly, and then allow e-commerce, allow platforms like Jumia an opportunity to do the rest for you. And that is getting market for you, getting delivery for you, doing marketing for you. So we create these efficiencies for vendors who otherwise would not be able to afford to be able to complete the whole value chain, from supply to warehousing to last mile delivery and so on and so on. So number one is that market, two is efficiency, and number three is obviously is education.
No.
Is that we want to teach these vendors and informal vendors how to scale their businesses. Many of them have been doing the same thing for decades with no opportunity to grow, and the reality is that what are they missing is some sort of education about scaling a business, an opportunity to be able to access credit. And as part of this, we want to make sure that these vendors are formalized in a way that their revenue is tracked, in a way they can prove to the banks and the financial sector about their proof of revenue, and as a result, they can access credit to be able to grow their businesses and go from one level to the next level to the next. So there's both mid-term and long-term impacts to these vendors. And already we see that through the markets they're accessing that they didn't have before.
Now, Aaron, I'm inquisitive. Right now, if I'm buying from Jumia, I'm trying to connect to my local market vendor. I'm probably buying in smaller quantities. If we're looking at a long-term plan, is there anywhere where we're going to include buying in big numbers, buying produce? If we're looking at transporting our produce to Ghana, to Nigeria, to Kenya, are we looking at using e-commerce for big for buying in big chunks?
Yes, already our platforms already connect what we call B2B customers. Those are the big restaurants who are now buying from these markets. Next level is factories that are producing or repackaging, in many ways using these as raw materials to produce things like juice, produce things like packaged food. So already within the country, we're creating a value chain that connects the farmer in rural areas to the manufacturer in the big cities, and obviously the markets in between.
This is already happening?
This is already happening through B2B channels. So these vendors are coming to Jumia and saying, okay, we need to buy from your markets. How do I do that? And Jumia is facilitating those transactions between restaurants, factories, and the suppliers. Next level, obviously, is to make sure these are now available to across the country. Right now, current regulations don't make it as easy.
I was about to ask that. How are you connecting to the vendors now?
So now in terms of cross-country, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're still focused within Uganda. The market is huge in Uganda. There's a lot of inefficiencies that we need to fix in Uganda. There's a lot of opportunities to crack. The next level now is that how do we take this cross-country? We know very well that Uganda is a food basket. We know very well that some of our neighbors, whether it's Somalia, whether it's South Sudan, whether it's Ethiopia, and so on, and they all struggle with food supply. How do we make our Ugandan sellers ready and able to deliver to these countries that have the need? And the reality is that we need to do more work at regional integration. We need to do better work as well in terms of cross-country logistics, in terms of being able to move fresh produce in a much quicker and better ways. We're not there yet. Of course, Jumia works within the existing infrastructure. And my hope is that the more we develop this, both at policy level and an infrastructure level, and with the facilitators like UNDP and the governments, we are ready to close the gap. The private sector is absolutely ready to exploit and take advantage of all avenues available to give our sellers more markets, to give our customers opportunities to order from wherever you can. Now, to give you context, it's easier for customers in Uganda to get products from China, and we do get them products from China and Dubai and Europe, than it is for customers to get products from South Sudan.
Why is that so?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I can also add to that point, this is where the actualization of the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement becomes very key. It's very, very important because we are trying to make business easy to do within Africa.
Sure.
You know, and the transportation question that you asked is very, very valid. If somebody sits in the comfort of their home in Accra and wants to order milk in bulk or tea in bulk, how do they do that? And I think it's going to be a combination of things. It's going to be a combination of partnership with the private sector. It's going to be a combination of working with the transport industry. The Ministry of Trade and Industry and Commerce would have to take a center stage because they are core to this conversation. We also have to be partnerships within, you know, the region itself, not only in EAC, but also, you know, within the region as a whole. So I think there are different dimensions to that. And ours as UNDP and indeed the United Nations family is to see how best we can support a country to make sure that that regional integration that we are talking about is not just on paper, but it actually becomes a reality. Already next week or two, we are rolling out as UNDP a regional product, which is nuanced from Jumia's, but it's going to be something very, very strategic. And I think we'll have the opportunity again to come back live on NBS to be able to share what exactly we are going to do, how we are going to connect various people in different countries, and how the question on transportation and other aspects of it will be tackled by the partnership that we are looking at. But very exciting times now for Africa, and I think we have to make it happen in our lifetime.
Now, Elsie and Ron, this question goes to both of you. The importance of awareness, especially in terms of the business model, but also in accessing these opportunities beyond central, down to the villages, down to the, you know, the local council, to the sub counties. Any plans for that? Because if they do not know about these opportunities, they will be reluctant, first of all, to be engaged in them, but also importantly, they will not reach out for them.
I mean, we have a whole communication plan that we have outlined for this. For example, with the Minister for KCC, we're going to have market launches, literally going to every market. We're going to go to Nakawa, we'll go to Nakasero, we'll go to Bugolobi, Kalewe, Wandegia, to really share what we are going to be doing. And similarly, we are also going to be working with the local governments. It's very, very important because that is where the heart is. We're going back to the district, going to the villages and really, you know, sharing what we are doing, not in really big English. It could be art forms, it could be drama, it could be some very radio, it could be different things that we're going to use to really make sure that we popularize what we are talking about, because knowledge is power. If people know, like you said, Ron, they are savvy. They are going to run with the vision because they know it's going to be mutually beneficial. If I sit in the market and I have 100 orders per day, nobody will tell me to do the right thing. I will do it. And if I can sit in the comfort of my home in Naguru and still get my tomatoes, pepper, onion, I would order. So again, advocacy, we're going to use different channels that speak to the people, our people, in the language they understand, to make sure that we don't keep this thing in just, you know, the TV rooms, but also go out there and do the right things.
Very important topic right here, yes?
And to add to that as well, obviously different areas have different needs. That we know that consumers who are staying up country have different needs than consumers in Kampala or the big cities, precisely because of the availability of food, local produce. So obviously we do not need to offer the same solution everywhere in Uganda. But the informal sector is more than market vendors, is more than just fresh produce vendors. We have small sellers who are making very nice products, from small electronics to small items to home items. These people also need access to the rural areas. You know, yesterday I was talking to the head of the Livestock Association, and many of their members are in rural areas. And because of this COVID-19, they had no access to drugs for their animals. And those are the people that need to be served. They need to make sure whether in Rukunjiri, whether in Barra, whether in Toroko, you can still access good, safe drugs for your animals. And that's an area we need to serve. So this expansion will look beyond the market vendors and also focus on what people in rural areas, what sellers in these areas are doing beyond fresh produce, which might not be necessarily what people need in the village. But they need access to more refined and safe products that are only available in the city. Now, one thing we know that most Ugandans don't have access to good retail. That for many of them, they have to come to Kampala to be able to access good retail. When they have access to this retail in rural areas, it's expensive, it's unregulated, the middlemen. And so we need to make sure that we focus on that as well, that everybody in Uganda should have good access to good retail. And this can go that route as well.
Maybe just one more point, Victoria. I mean, the other thing we need to focus on, just to build on what Ron said, is the issue around accessibility and affordability of internet. It's also very important because we are 40 million people, only 14 million are accessing that now, and the cost of internet is also high. And so this is where it becomes very important in terms of the partnership with the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, for example, NITU and others, with the private sector to see how we can bring also the cost of internet down so that somebody who sits in the rural area who also wants to participate in something like this is able to, and at a cheaper rate. And so when we look at the whole package around outreach, advocacy, communication, these are all interconnected in many ways.
Now, Ron, as we conclude, Elsie and Ron, UNDP is on board. Government seems to be on board. You have the knowledge. You have the model. You are a savior, literally. When do we roll out?
Well, I think that this tool is, in a way, a game changer. Never have we anywhere in any of our markets in Africa been able to provide a tool that connects the informal sector, especially market vendors, to consumers. Never have we been able to get development partners like the UNDP and the government and the private sector companies like Jumia to work together in a time that needs this, in a time that vendors need this, in a time that consumers need this. So yes, there's an opportunity of partners, there's an opportunity of the time, and I'm very confident that this will be a big one. We're already live in 2 markets. Nakasero is live, Nakawa is live. We'll be launching the other markets quite soon. And then we'll look at expanding across the country. So there's no doubt that this is the best thing to do for the time. And I'm very confident that we will see results quite soon.
Well, Elsie, lastly, for the Ugandan who has been watching you on TV today, the market vendor, the farmer, for them to leverage this opportunity to gain from this initiative, what will be your advice to them?
Look, we have ignited a fire that is not stoppable now. And I think my advice to them is to first join what we are doing. It's very, very important. Like I said, we're going to create a lot of awareness. So I think curiosity on their part is very, very important. This is a new way of doing business, and it's going to be with us perhaps for the rest of our lives. And so for them, it's a question of being curious about it, getting to know more about it, testing the application itself. It's very, very important wherever you sit. If you're listening to me, this is a game changer. It's a positive disruption, and it's has changed the world. And like I said, Victoria, as we look into the future of Uganda, as we rebuild our country, these are the new things that will change the way we do business. So we are not going to go back to the old ways of doing business again. It has changed. And I think we encourage everybody to come on board and join this partnership. And for the many others that we are going to be rolling out, not only as UNDP, but the UN Family, Private Sector and others, we just want people to take interest in that and be able to run with the vision.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been having an interesting, insightful conversation with Miss Elsie Attafuah. He is the UNDP resident representative for Uganda, and of course, the CEO for Jumia, that is Ron Kamara. Thank you so much, guys, for speaking to us. And to the farmers, seems like it's not all bad. COVID-19 may have broken us down, but then looks like we're thinking positively, and we are headed for the good times. So if you're a farmer, maybe this is the time to be in a circle. If you are not into farming, this is the time probably you should think about it. And if you're doing it on a small scale, probably this is the time to actually think at a larger scale so you can be able to benefit from such initiatives. Victoria Bagaya is my name. A very good morning.